Welcome back, everybody, to more from the Sableyes. I'm here today with Jordan. How are we doing, Jordan?
Very well, thank you.
That's good, and we are taking a look at the Gawler League Cup. This is the League Cup that recently took place in Gawler, South Australia, at TableTop Warfare, and thanks very much to those lovely people at that store for allowing us to record. The camera is a little bit glary at points. Sometimes cards are being cut off. It's kind of awkward, but that's okay. We've done our very best, and we're going to provide some top-notch commentary. And the game has already started, so we may as well get into it. On the left is Aaron Van Der Kolk, who is playing PikaRom, and on the right is me, and I am playing Ability Zard.
Yeah, so this is a very close matchup to start out the game, and looks like the camera's starting to get a bit better now as well. If you can't see properly, then there is a Jirachi in the active and a Vulpix plus a Zard on the bench for Mitch, and Aaron's side looks to be pretty clear. Honestly, both sides are pretty clear now. So
yeah, it's kind of
going into this matchup.
At the start, it's a bit glary, but that's okay.
Yeah, it gets better. So yeah, going into this matchup, they're like two of the big three tag team GXs, I suppose, in the format. These two plus Mewtwo are the three big ones most people would agree on, and out of those matchups, I would say that Zard versus PikaRom is probably, in my opinion, the closest of those matchups as well. So, two decks that can very easily go back and forth, and it should be a good match to start off the tournament.
It really should, and I've got a perfect start here. I've managed to use Giant Hearth. I keep saying Great Hearth. It used to be something like that. Giant Hearth to get 2 energy, and I've welded 2 onto the Zard and attached. I've got a Jirachi in the active with a skateboard on it and a Vulpix on the bench, and I haven't even used Stellar Wish yet. So things are looking pretty good on my side of the field. And as I go in for that Stellar Wish, I don't think there's much more that I could realistically ask for this turn. Having a look at those 5 cards off of the Stellar Wish and opting for what is it going to be, me? I'm sitting here thinking a long time about this one. It must be very important on the first turn of the game. Grabbing a Pokemon Communication. There you go.
That seems like a fine start. And over on Aaron's board, his start doesn't look too bad either. Obviously, both players opening Jirachi is what you want to see, and Aaron has opened with the Tapu Koko on the bench as well, which is probably the hardest and most important Pokemon that you want to be finding in the early game. So getting that out of the way is a really good thing for Aaron.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Aaron actually said to me the reason that he played it down, because normally like you might hold it in your hand or whatever it is, but Aaron said the reason he played it down is because he thought before the tournament that I was playing PikaRom with Judge, so opting to play it down for that reason. But hey, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I'm chucking away a Dedenne here, putting that back into the deck with Pokemon Communications, and it's one of those situations where there's nothing that I'm realistically looking for. Like, ultimately, there's no cards that I'm desperately needing to find here, so then part of me is kind of like, why do I not just hold on to that for a Ninetales next turn? But I'm choosing to go for a second Jirachi here. Obviously, the key for the PikaRom matchup is you want to make sure that you've got welders every turn so that you can start attacking for big numbers before they can. And Jirachi is going to be the way that I'm going to be able to do that. Put the second one up means I get 2 Stellar Wishes and give myself an opportunity to have multiple Stellar Wishes in the next turn as well.
Now, it's also really important to keep in mind that PikaRom, especially with Zapdos, is a deck that's very easily going to be able to take a knockout on the first turn of the game, so you don't really want to sacrifice your only Jirachi or your Vulpix, and you also don't really want to let your Zard get half hit on like the first turn of the game, so having a second Jirachi there in the active means no matter what Aaron does next turn, whether it's a Thunderous Assault or a Full Blitz, you're going to be sacrificing just a Jirachi, and that's not too bad when you've got one with a skateboard on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron here choosing to grab a Pokemon Communication off of the Stellar Wish. Obviously, the Pokemon that he's most desperate to find is already in play. Aaron accidentally putting that Pokemon Communication in the discard there. Probably should go to his hand, but that's okay. And an attachment to Tapu Koko Prism is usually not the strongest play. Maybe looking to Dedenne his hand away or something similar.
Yeah, you always want to get an energy attachment down turn 1, so even if it's on the wrong Pokemon, you do play cards like Energy Switch so you can fix it up in the later turns. But wow, Aaron actually has nothing. And we actually see Aaron kind of punished there for putting the Koko down on the first turn before looking at his hand or seeing where his Stellar Wish is, because if he had held that, he could have actually used Pokemon Communication to find either an attacker or a a Dedenne to get a fresh hand, but with that Coco down, he's actually not going to have any access to using that Pokemon communication right now, which is going to set him so far behind.
That's a real shame, and you can see Aaron not particularly happy with that hand there, just sliding that one onto the table. But it's funny because we were saying before, Jirachi is a good Pokemon to kind of put in the active and allow it to be knocked out, but it's not been knocked out, so I'm going to need to find a switch here to make sure that I can actually continue playing the game. So we'll see if I'm able to do that.
That is pretty awkward, but at the same time, if there was one Pokemon that you want to have in the active to try and find a switch effect, it's going to be Jirachi, because half the time it's going to be able to use Stellar Wish to get itself out of the active anyway. And if you are able to do so, you'll have access to a second Stellar Wish, and then ideally you'll be able to attack with Rechizard this turn. All you need is a manual attachment, which is guaranteed thanks to Giant Half, and you'll be able to use Flare Strike on either this Jirachi or the Tapu Koko. And honestly, looking at Aaron's hand, I feel like if you knock out either one of those two Pokemon, you're going to be in a super good position this game.
Yeah, exactly. So found the switch there, and now playing a Cherish Ball for a Dedenne. It is kind of hard to see. I don't think on the camera we've got a particularly good view of my discard pile, let alone Aaron's, to be fair. So it's kind of a little bit awkward, but that's okay. We'll discuss the cards that are going into the bin so that you know exactly what they are. Playing a Dedenne here, discarding my hand and drawing a new hand of 6. And I guess the key for me is now I need to make a decision is, like, which Pokemon do I want to knock out here? Do I want to take out the Jirachi and remove the consistency, maybe hope that Aaron continues to brick, or do I knock out the Tapu Koko in order to remove the energy acceleration? I've got the Ninetales, so in the worst case scenario, I can choose to do both.
Yeah, and I would say that at this point, you've got to assume that even if Aaron does get lucky, like say you knock out the Jirachi and he gets lucky, top decks a supporter or a way to get to Dene, he's still going to be fine because he's got that Tapu Koko and he's draw into energy switch and stuff. So if you knock out the Koko, even if he does get lucky with Jirachi and find a new hand, then he's going to really struggle on the next turn to power anything up. So the Tapu Koko definitely looks like it's the very powerful and almost greedy option. But I think, as I said before, you're probably going to be fine knocking either one of these two Pokemon out, especially since you're going to be able to use Flare Strike ideally. And that's really important in this matchup because you really want to make sure that you've got access to Double Blaze in the late game. Take a big one-hit KO for 300 damage, so you really don't want to waste that just on a one-price Pokemon in the beginning of the game here.
Yeah, and there's the Gust with Ninetales, and grabbing those energy back with Fire Crystal as well, very strong. Attaching two of those with Welder, and now I'm in a pretty solid position here. Got a Rechizard that's almost powered up perfectly for the 6 energy GX attack. But alas, it's not going to be. I'm going to be knocking out that Tapu Koko Prism with Flare Strike, and now Aaron is in a really rough spot. Only a Jirachi in play on his second or third turn. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I think it's the second turn for Aaron.
Yeah, it's the second turn, because you had 2 busted turns.
Yeah, 2 broken turns, and Aaron's had 2 turns of nothing, so it's...
And I actually did see he top-decked a Lily, which is pretty awkward considering he's got so many cards in his hand he can't really play down. And we see the Stellar Wish there, and he actually got 2 more Lilies off of the Stellar Wish. So he can't really get any cards off the Stellar Wish. He was actually just forced it with the Stellar Wish there, and he's going to play down as many cards as physically possible just to be able to hopefully draw a basic or any Pokemon off of a Lily.
Yeah, so discarding the switch with Giant Hearth, playing Electro Power, playing down Lysandre Labs, and then Lilying. And
I actually saw the very last card that he drew was the Electromagnetic Radar, so this will get him both an attacker and a Dedenne to keep drawing cards if he chooses to do so. I think I saw an energy switch in his hand as well, so he can salvage that energy on the Jirachi before he plays the Dedenne, move it onto his PikaRom. It's still going to be quite far away from pulling off a flare. Full blitz. So it's not going to happen this turn, but it certainly seems possible that he'll be able to pull off a relevant attack next turn. At least.
Yeah, the key is now Aaron at least is in the game. There's cards that have been played, but the worst part for him is that despite the fact that he's managed to find an attacker, I'm only 3 energy away from gusting out the PikaRom and knocking it out with the Rechizard's GX attack. So. Aaron not able to do much more there, and there's the Gust, and Aaron chooses, that's going to be enough. We'll go to the next one.
He did get rid of the Giant Half, so he was forcing you to find those extra energy to pull off that play, but it's really insane to see how powerful those Fire Crystals can be. Like, sure, you might not want to see them in your opening hand, but pretty much every turn after the first turn, Fire Crystal is just such a powerful card that will allow you to do so many things. You can do those cool combos where you use Ninetales and Welder with the same energy at the same time. Obviously, it increases the power of your baby Blacephalons to take one-hit KOs, and just in general, means that you can play more of the game or play the game longer before you're forced to use Victini, so you can apply more aggression early without having to worry about running out of energy. So, very powerful card in this deck, and we definitely see its power was shown off in that game 1 there.
It certainly was, and it obviously means playing the Fire Crystal means that Victini is not going to be the one prize attacker that it might be in other versions of Reshizard, so I'm not going to be able to take a one-shot on a PikaRom with a Victini, but I am still going to be able to do some pretty cool things with those Fire Crystals, so that is good fun. Aaron looks like he's got a Alolan Raichu there to start off. I didn't quite catch what I had, nor did I remember, but
find out right now. Looks like
a
Volcanion?
Looks like a little Vulpix, a Vulpix
Yeah.
in the active. So that bright glare will disappear as soon as we start playing here. But Aaron is able to do something straight away here. He has a Volkner, and that means that he's able to play some cards, and he's going to shuffle away the Tapu Fini with that Pokemon Communication to find Tapu Koko, which now feels a little bit safer.
Yeah, he's definitely got a much stronger hand on this turn. Did he just electromagnetic radar? Oh, okay.
So his radar,
as well there.
I think in the moment I completely missed it as well. Aaron's obviously playing quite quickly here because
That makes sense.
the first game didn't go his way. He wants to make sure that there is enough time for another couple of games if he is able to win. And then the Dedenne to throw the hand away. Picks up an interesting looking hand here.
Let's not mistaken, like, last game was, like, a super, super unlikely scenario for PikaRom. Like, that does not happen very often where you see PikaRom completely brick like that, especially off of opening a Jirachi. Like, we see Aaron getting a much more standard hand for PikaRom, I would say, in this game, and he didn't even open with the Jirachi, so definitely looks like Aaron's going to be able to pull off quite a lot more aggression than he did in the last game, which was literally none.
Yeah, he was able to do something this game, yeah.
This is exactly what we expect to see from this matchup, is the PikaRom player getting like a super strong start and applying pressure to Reshizard, meaning you're not really going to be able to get to that 6 energy double blaze quite as easily.
Yeah, it's not going to be a free one like it was last game. I'm not necessarily showing off a huge amount of the good stuff that it can do in this game. We've got Heat Factory, discarding a Fire Energy. There's a Jirachi onto the bench, and an Escape Board onto that Jirachi. So I've obviously got some other cards floating around. There's a Reshizard coming onto the bench.
Certainly not the worst start. If we can see a Welder on this turn, then I think this is going to be more than acceptable. But right now it looks like you're going to be pretty reliant on this Stellar Wish, just based on the way you've been playing your hand out so far. I didn't see the other cards in your hand, but you might need to find something off of this Wish. And it's also worth noting that while Aaron's turn was really, really good, he's got the Jirachi and the Koko on the bench, he got the 2 energy in the discard. He did actually whiff a manual attachment, I believe, which is, it's salvageable. Like, you can get away without getting a manual attachment turn 1, but it does make his turn 2 quite a bit harder, especially since I believe I saw him discard a couple of energy switches with his Dedenne. So Aaron's going to need quite a bit of a extensive combo to do anything relevant next turn, so you might actually have an additional turn to set up here if your start is a little slower.
Yeah, that's true, and I did manage to find a Pokemon Communication here off of that Stellar Wish. Going through, and looks like I'm going to grab a Volcanion here. So maybe there is some other things going on in my hand that I don't remember. It's one of those things with AbilityZard that you never quite know which direction you're going to go. I obviously already have manually attached, so perhaps we're looking at like there we go. There's a Dedenne in hand, so a Welder here and a switch.
Oh, you attached to Retreat, did you?
Yeah, so I attached to the Vulpix to Retreat. So like a Welder and a switch here gets me into a Volcanion, which gets me into 3 energy on Reshizard. So we'll see if I'm able to pull that off of the Dedenne. The key is though that I've already used Stellar Wish, so it's going to be unlikely.
Yeah, it's not super likely, but if you can get it, it's super strong, because Flare Starter going second is definitely what you want to be aiming to do whenever you have the option to do so. Like, sometimes it might be better to get like a turn 1 Welder onto a Heatran and attack, or maybe go for a turn 1 Double Blaze, but majority of the time in a matchup like this, the turn 1 Flare Starter is really powerful if you can get it. But looks like no luck for you. Both of you actually having
nothing's
a
going
bit of
on
a
there.
lackluster start. Like neither of you drew really badly, but you both end your first turn with no energy on the board, which is pretty bizarre for decks that can pretty often end your first turn with like 3 or more energy on board sometimes. So
yeah, so it's quite an interesting one. It's an interesting one here, and Aaron actually showing 3 energy off of that Stellar Wish as well. Not being able to find a manual attachment though, but he does have Tapu Koko, so he's using Koko, putting 1 on the Pikachu Zekrom and 1 on the Raichu, and then going and using Tag Switch, which he got off of the Stellar Wish, to put them onto the PikaRom. And so you'd have to presume here, the way that this hand is being played out, that the Stadium is what he's looking for, but no, not going to be the case. He's going to play down Life Saver Labs
he hasn't
instead.
actually attached yet, so he actually is just looking for...
Oh, that's true, that's true. Looking for that energy. My apologies.
Any energy will allow him to get a full blitz off, and it looks like he whiffed it off of the Lily. He played down as many cards as he could to draw as many cards as possible to try and find that energy. He had to play down Electro Power, which you don't really want to do if you don't have to, but still whiffing anyway is going to force him to go for the Dedenne here. Taking a PikaRom as well, obviously not valuing having 1 in deck. He thinks that this one's going to be all he needs for the game, so just trying to thin out as many cards as possible to find energy, and we see it off of the very first card. So we're going to see the first attack of this game go to Aaron with a turn 2 full blitz, which is pretty respectable. Like,
yeah, you can't
he's
complain
going to
about
power
that
up
at
the
all.
Raichu, I imagine, which is a really strong attacker in this matchup. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on you to perform well in the next few turns.
Well, and the key here is less about the fact that he's able to get the energy in play, but more about the fact that I don't have any energy at all. I wouldn't have felt so bad having that full blitz happen if I had been able to get the Volcanion to use Flare Starter, but alas, wasn't not to be. And now I'm in a very awkward position where, with no energy in play, I'm kind of at the mercy of Aaron here. Anything could happen. I'm managing to attach to a Volcanion here, and then just a switch, and a Flare Starter looks like is going to be happening here. So this is not a very strong start. We're seeing the good and the bad of both of these decks straight away.
I would say that the bad in Game 1 was a little bit worse than the bad in Game 2 for you, but yeah, we actually didn't see you pull off a welder on the first turn, which means you probably don't have one for the second turn either. And if you don't have access to Dedenne, then your hand's not really going to change much in the next few turns, unless you can find either a welder or a Dedenne. And honestly, at this point, it looks like you're probably going to need both to catch up. Aaron's going to get another full blitz off here, power up another attacker if he chooses to do so. And all of a sudden, he's going to have that Raichu tag team ready to just take a big one-hit KO on a Reshizard at any time. So.
Yep, and that's all Aaron chooses to do as well, is just full blitz. And he actually puts the 2 energy onto the Zera Aura, which is more than reasonable. I'm manually attaching and then using Outrage. So there you go. How's that for some quality attacking?
Like, it's pretty relevant. Like, it's not a bad attack to make. 30 damage onto PikaRom does mean that you can use Flash Strike to get a knockout, not waste your GX attack, and then save your GX attack to take the final 3 prize cards. But the way Aaron's playing makes me think he's got all the cards he needs for the one-hit KO on Reshizard, and it feels like that's probably going to seal up the game.
Yep, and that is it. There's not much more that is going to happen in that one. Aaron absolutely steamrolling it, and we go into Game 3 when the score's at 1 apiece, which is probably the way that you'd expect this matchup to go. It's pretty even, and whichever deck gets the best start tends to win.
Yeah, 2 very exciting games. Now, I really wish that we saw your hand in Game 1 against Aaron's hand in Game 2. Like,
yes.
That's the match that I want to see happen. And hopefully that's what we get to see in Game 3. I have no idea about anything that happens in this match. You've obviously
I lived through it. I lived through this. So it's just a matter of trying to keep the spoilers away from Jordan here.
Yep, you know what is going to happen in this Game 3. But if we see a hand, like, let's just say that was one game, right? You got the hand you got in that game, and in Game 1, and Aaron got the hand he just played then. Who do you think would win in that walk, where it's like a turn 2 full blitz, 3 on energy on a Raichu versus a turn 2 6 energy on a Reshizard, pressuring with double blaze for 300? Like, I actually don't know who would win that war.
It's really tough to say, because obviously if Aaron is able to take a knockout, it puts him in a pretty strong position with the full blitz, but obviously I can double blaze to return, and then he can return with the Alolan Raichu. it just comes down to luck, doesn't it? Like, it comes down to which one prize attackers I'm able to use, and that's, I guess, the biggest thing for my particular list versus Aaron's, is that Aaron needs to take his big knockouts with GX Pokemon, whereas Ability Reshi doesn't. So Ability Reshi can use those little basics like Turtonator or Blacephalon in order to take big knockouts. So I guess it just comes down to whether or not I'm able to get those little basics in play or not. But hey, we're onto the game now, and geez, this glare is really bad now, but I've got a Jirachi in the active. Aaron has a Zeraora in the active with, again, Tapu Koko on the bench. He's had absolutely no problems finding that. And looks like I've just used a Cherish Ball to grab a what is that? That's not Pikachu.
A
Reshizard. I gotta learn the cards in my deck. And second Cherish Ball here, presumably, is going to be looking for a Dedenne. Just having a bit of a look through on those first couple of searches just to make sure that everything is in the right spot.
Looks like you might have actually failed the second Cherish Ball, so you're probably holding access to a Dedenne already. Looks like the glare's also getting a little bit better, at least on Aaron's side, so in a couple seconds, hopefully we'll be able to see what all of the cards on the board are, which is always helpful.
Classic autofocus problems.
Yeah, it's also interesting because you were just saying, like, your strategy in this matchup is hopefully to be able to take a one-hit KO with a non-GX attacker later on in the game. Maybe your baby Blacephalon or your Turtonator if you end up surviving. But Aaron actually has a couple decent non-GX options in his deck as well. Mainly the Zapdos, which with an Electro Power can knock out most of your non-GX attackers in one hit for one energy, which is pretty strong. And also, actually, a really interesting one is Aaron's actually playing the Tapu Fini as the Blacephalon counter. But if you're ever tempted to use that baby Blacephalon, then with an Ultra Beast in play, Aaron actually has access to using that Tapu Fini to do 200 damage to any fire Pokemon with one energy. So I could see both of these decks actually being able to make some interesting plays with non-GXs. But for the most part, we're probably going to see these big GXs bashing into each other. And just like in Game 1, we see straight away you end the turn with 3 energy on your Reshizard, ready to apply lots of pressure.
Certainly do, but unlike Game 1, Aaron has a supporter and he sees that Zapdos as well. I believe that was actually the top deck. He just grabbed that off and played it straight down, which is really, really strong. And discarding a Hooper and a Lightning Energy with Electromagnetic Radar to start setting up his big attackers. Seems like a very strong start for Aaron, and the best bit is he's probably going to be able to end the turn with that Zapdos in the active after taking a knockout on the Jirachi. So he'd be feeling a lot better about that than his original start in Game 1.
Yeah, and this time it's actually a lot more punishing as well, because as of right now, you don't really have any better Pokemon to promote other than just bringing up that Reshizard and maybe knocking out the Zapdos with a Flash Strike. It looks like Aaron might even be going for PikaRom. Oh, wait, no, he didn't retreat. He switched, right?
No, so he played Switch, yeah. So he was just using some of his creative freedoms here, getting that Pikachu Zekrom into the active, knowing that he was going to Dedenne because he can just retreat, but chooses to pass there. No? No, that was Stamp. He was playing... Was he playing Stamp?
Yeah, playing
what was
Stamp.
Going on? Yeah.
And,
my apologies.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have access to getting that knockout with Jirachi.
I was about to say, it's weird that he didn't go for that. Yeah. I don't remember him not doing that.
Pretty awkward for you now, not having another Jirachi in play. You don't have a Vulpix or anything. All you can really do is promote this Reshizard and declare Flash Strike onto Zapdos. Without Vulpix in play, you can't do any gust effects to maybe try and knock out Dedenne or Zeraora instead, something like that. If you were really lucky, you could even pull off a turn 2 Double Blaze plus Gust to knock out that PikaRom, but as of right now, looks like both of you are going to be going up 1 prize on a non-GX Pokemon, but Aaron's going to be one to take the first real big hit, probably getting a Full Blitz next turn into that Reshizard, and then powering up a strong attacker like that Raichu or the Zeraora to finish off. And really, it seems like I would favor Aaron in this at the start of this Game 3, even though it does seem pretty close.
It does seem pretty close. There's a giant half coming down here and discarding a card of some description. I think that was actually a Fiery Flint that I've discarded there. So instead of discarding from hand, choosing instead to discard that card to grab 2 Fire Energy, which is that's perfectly reasonable, depending on what cards I had in my hand. I can't even remember.
I'm sure we'll find out very shortly.
I'm sure we'll see them.
hopefully you have access to a welder, because the one good thing going for you right now is, even though Aaron did have a very aggressive start, he's probably going to be able to pull off a full blitz next turn. He's definitely not going to have access to like a one-hit KO on this Reshizard. And well, it actually looks like you're going to be pulling off a Heatran attack, which is pretty strong, because Heatran also is actually pretty good at tanking a hit from full blitz from PikaRom. He can get double electric power if he wants to take a knockout on this Heatran, which would be pretty strong, but then he's going to be pretty low on electric powers to do with the Reshizard later on in the game, so we'll have to see what Aaron goes for here. He's playing one electric power, so if he can find his Thunder Mountain or and a second electric power, he can actually get the knockout on this Heatran, which isn't a huge steal for you, but it does remove most of your energy off the board, which is pretty threatening, and most importantly, it would bring Aaron down to only 3 prize cards after taking out that Jirachi turn 1, so really seems like if Aaron can pull off that full blitz for 210 damage, he's going to be favored to win this game, I would say, but he does probably need to find the Thunder Mountain, because he's already attached and he already used Tapu Koko. It's going to be pretty hard for him to find it.
Yeah, and doesn't look like he managed to find it in that hand there, so instead retreating into the Jirachi. I think there was a switch, so maybe he could grab it off of this Stellar Wish. But it's not there.
He got the Electro Power, but not the
Electro Power, but not the Thunder Mountain, so the attack's not going to happen, and the risk that I've taken to put the Heatran into the active is not necessarily going to be punished this turn.
Although it is worth noting that you still haven't actually managed to get a Vulpix down, so Aaron can kind of just sit back, say, hey, I missed this turn, that kind of sucks, but I'll just let you knock out another Jirachi, go down to 4 prizes. You're still going to be 2 big knockouts away from winning the game, no matter what Pokemon I use, and I'll just do the same thing again for next turn instead, so not the worst thing in the world for Aaron. Definitely a big missed opportunity there, but I wouldn't count him out of this game in any way.
No, and from this is I just remembered this. So the reason that nothing was happening on my side of the field there was because I had nothing in hand. I had that Pokemon communication, and I remember being like, geez, if I can just find a Pokemon, that would be great. And then top decking that Vulpix, I was like, that's literally the Pokemon that I wanted to get like right at the start of the game, but now I can't, because I need to use that Vulpix to get the Dedenne so that I can keep playing. It was kind of one of those awkward situations, but the fact that Aaron hasn't taken a knockout on this Heatran, firstly, he's used some of his resources up, some of those E-powers are gone. I'm playing the stamp here to stamp him down to, I think it's to the 5, possibly?
Yeah, he's just the Jirachi, so
yep, so
5 prizes.
5
We
in
also
the
knew
hand.
he was holding an Electric Power, so it's good to get that out of the way, although we do see him draw another Electric Power right away.
But hey, I'm not to know that. And I do manage to get the Pokemon communication to grab the Vulpix, which is barely on the screen there. So that is on the bench. So now I'm feeling slightly better, and the best thing is that I've got that extra energy on the Reshizard, which means it's going to be a little bit easier to get a big attack off in the next couple of turns. I really would like the Welder onto that particular Reshizard, but I don't know if it's going to happen here. I just have to settle for a knockout with Steaming Stomp on Heatran.
Yeah, your board definitely feels a lot more comfortable now. With the Vulpix down, you can threaten a big knockout on pretty much anything next turn. As you said, you are 1 energy short of potentially pulling off a Double Blades next turn, but even without Double Blades, having that Reshizard ready to at least declare Flare Strike does put you in a strong position, especially since you're on 4 prizes. Instead of taking the route where you try and take a big one-hit KO on a Tag Team GX, you could even just win the game by getting 2 back-to-back Flare Blitzes with Ninetales to kill 2 Dedennes in a row, or maybe Dedenne and Zero or something along those lines. You don't actually have to knock out a tag team in order to win this game if you don't want to, so we'll end up seeing what the easiest route for you on this turn is to take your prizes, but you could also just try and get the one-hit KO with something like a Baby Blacephalon or a Turtonator. You would lose the energy on your Reshizard if you went for the Turtonator, but you'd be down to 1 prize, and Aaron does have a Jirachi on the so definitely lots of different routes for you to try and win the game. Aaron did get the perfect turn on his turn. He got the double E-Power and the full blitz to power up Raichu, but it's gonna be interesting to see if you can respond with one of those really big plays this turn.
Yeah, and that Victini that I played down on the first turn of the game, just to make sure that it was on the bench, has kind of cost me some flexibility here, because I'm going to have to play the 3rd Dedenne to try and get out of this, and the worst thing is that I'm not going to be able to use Reshizard for the large GX attack onto this PikaRom. I might have to just settle for 230 with Flare Strike, presuming that, of course, I find a welder. So playing that Dedenne down, getting 6 fresh cards. And we'll take a look and see what I do manage to find. Obviously, the perfect turn here would be like Ninetales and Gust and a welder, and manage to get myself a couple of extra cards and 2 prizes. But we'll have to wait and see if that eventuates. Discarding the Volcanion to grab 2 fire energies. So maybe there is going to be an interesting play coming up here. Wait and see.
You gotta think that you're in a pretty dangerous spot right now, because Aaron did just take 2 prize cards, so he's only got 3 prize cards left, and after full blitz into that Alolan Raichu, he hasn't used his GX attack, so he is only a couple cards away from declaring a one-hit KO on your Reshizard and just winning the game next turn, which is pretty scary. So that would make me think that maybe if you could, it would be ideal for you to attack with the Victini on this turn. But once again, like, the Victini half hitting a PikaRom isn't that strong. Like, maybe you could use it to kill a Dedenne or a Jirachi or something. But at the end of the day, Aaron is playing a deck that runs custom catches, so even if you did use Victini, that's just a couple extra cards for Aaron, and he can still pull off the game-winning attack next turn. So it's really going to come down to what card Aaron's able to find. He might be winning this set on the very next turn.
He might be. There's a welder onto the Reshizard. Now I'm checking the discard pile. I think from memory I was checking the amount of custom catches that Aaron had used. Because obviously I'm not in a position where I can realistically attack with Reshizard. I can, but it would not take a knockout, and at the moment that's what I need. Obviously missing the Ninetales or the effect, like the Gust effect, means that I can't take a knockout on something that I want to. So I might just have to sack a turn here and hope that Aaron isn't able to Gust. And if that's the case, then I could be okay. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see whether or not I'm able to come back here, because it's not looking great.
Yeah, and especially since, sure, if you sack a turn, then you'll have your Double Blaze ready to go next turn. It'll be very easy for you to pull it off now with Fire Energy on the Reshizard, but that actually doesn't win the game. You'll only be able to take 3 prizes at most with Double Blaze. So if Aaron can get a knockout on anything this turn, even if it's not the Reshizard, if he can just take 1 prize on one of these non-GXs or 2 prizes on the Dedenne on the following turn, or vice versa, then he can potentially win without even needing to knock out this Reshizard. So you got to think, if Aaron's able to just take an attack each turn and maybe pull off one set of custom catches, there's almost nothing you can do to stop him from winning this game.
Yeah, so retreating into the Victini Prism is all that I'm doing, and then Aaron is into his Jirachi for a Stellar Wish. You have to presume that he's got a way to get out, and there's an attachment onto the Raichu, the switch into the PikaRom again, and presumably another knockout. It's looking like he's in a commanding position.
There is one really good thing going on for you, and that's actually the amount of E-Powers that Aaron's had to use in this game. I believe he had to waste at least 1 when he was trying to go for the Heatran knockout, and then he played another 2 on the following turn when he actually got the Heatran knockout. I forget if he had to ditch one earlier in the game, but it's quite possible that Aaron has either 1 or 0 Electro Power left, so it could be really hard for him to actually pull off that one-hit KO onto your Reshizard. Raichu does only do 250 damage base if you don't play Electro Power, and he would possibly need to find double custom catcher, use Tandem Shock, and take a knockout on one of those Dedennes. He is down to 2 prizes now, so double custom catcher will effectively win the game no matter what, unless you were to Gust and knock out that Raichu. Then he would need double custom catcher and Electro Power to kill a Dedenne, so I would guess that's probably what you're going to want to be going for here, is take out that Raichu and make it just that little bit harder for Aaron to find the win.
Yeah, exactly, and there's the Ninetales in place, so with the Giant Hearth, I will be able to find at least 2 energy. It's just a matter of whether or not I have 1 in hand. Grabbing 1, and presumably 2, maybe there's only 1 left.
You gotta hope so. I mean, your Victini did just get knocked out, so if you are running low on energy, it's going to be just that little bit harder for you to close out the game as well. But we do need to keep in mind you are playing full 4 copies of Fire Crystal, so if not in deck, that doesn't mean they're not accessible. You could just draw a Fire Crystal, and then that'll give you most of the access that you need to Fire Engine to close out the game. In theory, this Reshizard's either going to take the last 4 prizes, or you're going to lose. I don't think you're ever going to get into the position where you end up using another attacker past this Reshizard.
And there is that Fire Crystal. Used Heat Factory as well, and Aaron can sense what's coming here. He's picked up the Raichu, so he knows what's about to happen. There's the
And yeah, we were just saying last turn, like, there's so many options for Aaron to be able to win, but most of those options did involve that all of Raichu. So now for Aaron to be able to take a knockout, he's going to need custom catches and probably an Electro Power to be able to knock out a Dedenne.
And I've just used the reset stamp, yeah, so that's very strong.
Turn.
So even though it looked like I was in a very, very dire spot, being able to take out the biggest threat on Aaron's board, go down to 1 prize, and reduce Aaron's hand to only 2 cards. So in order for Aaron to win the game, he needs a reset stamp, not reset stamp, sorry, 2 custom catches and an Electro Power. And I believe, from memory, that there's only those 3 copies of that card left in deck. So there's 2 custom catches and 1 Electro Power left. So
basically, it's a perfect combo. And very interesting decision from Aaron here. He's actually choosing to promote the PikaRom instead of the Jirachi. And that makes sense, because if you do promote the Jirachi, that's just 1 extra card that you're forcing yourself to have to find. You have to find a way out of the active, as well as the card you need to actually win the game. But looking at his hand, he doesn't really have too strong a turn. He's got the Volkner, which is going to get him 1 of the 3 cards he needs, but obviously not going to find him all 3 of them. And I did see an Electromagnetic Radar in it as well. So if he had a 3rd Dedenne in his deck, then he could go for an extra Dede change, try and draw into the cards he needs. But I don't believe Aaron's actually playing 3 Dedenne in this particular list, so we might be... Is this probably going to be a single custom catcher for draw? I don't think I saw a second one in his hand. But if he plays this for draw, and you were correct in saying there's 2 in the discard pile, that's probably going to take away most of his win condition.
So playing down the Lysander Labs here, and just a pass, and there's the energy, and you can see Aaron holding out the hands.
Yeah, if he knew you had it, or at least he knew you were probably going to be able to find it if you didn't already.
Yeah, so a bit of a shame, Aaron going from a very commanding position there to ending up losing the game simply because Reshizard does 300 damage, which is a very, very powerful attack. Thanks, Jordan, for coming along for the first round of the Gawler League Cup. I'm sure we'll have you back for more.
No problem. It was a very exciting set to commentate, especially after we finally got a good game in Game 3, and it is a very fun matchup as well.
It certainly is. And thanks, everyone, for coming along. Sorry about being away for so long with sickness, but we can only be as well as we are. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, do all the usual things, like click on the cards on the left-hand side that tell you where all the new videos are. There's a subscribe button you can click, and there's a little playlist button you can click as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more from the Stabilize. Bye.